Hey, wonderfuls. Welcome back to Helpers High by me, Tiffany. Today, we are in episode 14. And here's what's so cool about it. I really am getting my cup full from Helpers High. So, my addiction to helping others is actually being satisfied with this podcast. So, really just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for the kind thoughts, sentiments, and so forth, just letting me know that you are able to reflect and that it is at least jogging some thoughts and inspiring you to kind of just think differently. In this episode, we are going to do things a little bit differently, as we do in every episode, right? So, first of all, let's just ground for one moment, just in case everyone didn't come in on episode one from the beginning. Every episode, right, of Helpers High is going to be a mix of truth and real talk. It's about relationships and just next level growth, if we're being honest, right? I share stories, questions. We do have our pulse questions and bold reminders to help us kind of be honest about relationships that we're in. And it really does start from the relationship that we have with ourselves, whether it's relationships built on love, whether it's family relationships, whether it's work relationships, or just friendships, all good relationships, it all begins with self awareness, doing the work and choosing better for ourselves. We learn that knowledge is power, which we really knew already, but we also learn here in Helpers High that excuses, they kill potential. So we're not about excuses here. We're about learning and what we need to move forward. Today, I'm going to start with a story. And after I tell the story, I'm going to kind of review it and do a deeper dive about what the story is actually about. Some of it will be obvious what the story is about, and some things, let's uncover it together, okay? So stick with me here, okay? Because we've never really told a story about someone else. All of the stories have been my personal experience up to this point. And I feel like even though we're using a story, it is going to be our personal experience once we get to the end. Okay? So there was a man who prayed every single night for his family. He was out of work and he was spending his whole entire day trying to figure it out. They didn't have enough money and they didn't have enough food. And he was carrying the weight of his entire family. One night, he went to bed and had a dream. But in his dream, he heard God tell him, let's say tell him, God's voice, a dream. And God told him, plant the seeds from the fruit outside, and I will provide everything you need. So the next morning, he wakes up energized with a new look on life, right? He runs into the kitchen and he grabs the last of the fruits that are there. There was a fig, there was a papaya, and there was an orange. And he said, I don't know what fruit I'm supposed to plant the seeds of. I'm going to use all. So he takes it apart. He uses all three fruits and he goes outside and he starts to plant his seeds. He is so full of joy from hearing this message in his head loud and clear that he's digging and singing and digging and singing. His neighbor walks by and sees him digging and singing and says, wow, you look so happy. Long time no see. What are you doing? And the man says, it's good to see you too. I'm planting fruit trees so my family will never go hungry again. The next day, he goes outside again to water his seeds, and he sees another neighbor. And his neighbor says, hey, I heard you were planting seeds to ensure that your family never goes hungry again. And he goes, yeah, that's right. He goes, I'm sorry to hear about your job. I heard that you lost your job. Wait a second, Helpers High fam. Let me pause for a second because you heard that, right? The word got around. he was out of work. He didn't tell anybody. That wasn't his motif, right? He just was following his own guidance and he's outside planting his seeds. But the word had already spread throughout the village or the town, and everyone was aware. So the neighbor says, I'm a baker and I always have extra bread and so forth. Would you like it for your family? And he goes, oh, no, no, no. Oh, please, no worries. But I appreciate you asking. He goes, well, the bread will hold you over until your harvest is ready. And he goes, no, it's so kind of you. I appreciate that. But you don't have to worry about that. We're good. He didn't want to seem needy, of course. And he also didn't want to tell him, that he got a message from God. Sounds kind of interesting to most people for you to say those types of things. So let me pause again. I just want to say, helpers, hi, family. I don't want you to think that when you're moving in purpose, that everybody is rooting for you. That's not how it works. So he felt that he didn't want to share that message about getting insight from God. Let me get back to the story. So each day for weeks, he went out, he understood the mission, water the seeds, right? Which had started to take shape now in the form of trees. So he was getting excited, but very little to eat, and money was still so scarce for his family. His wife had taken on some odds and end jobs and was bringing in a little bit of income. But any time the food came in, he always wanted to make sure that his family was eating first. So it left him with not an abundance of food. He was living on bare minimum. Another day goes by and he's outside watering his plants and he can hear his elderly neighbor yelling, Bessie, Bessie, come in here, Bessie. Well, he knew that Bessie was her dog, and obviously the dog had gotten out. So he goes over and he goes, don't worry, I'll find Bessie for you. And he starts to look for Bessie. He found her very quickly, right in the backyard. She was playing with a rabbit. He picked her up and he brought Bessie inside. And the neighbor was so grateful. She reached in her pocket and handed him a $20 bill. To which he said, no, thank you. I'm just glad that I can help. I'm glad Bessie's back. Is there anything else that you need? And she said, no, thank you so much. End of the story. He goes back home. Time goes by and he did begin to grow weaker and weaker. Still no work, and it was getting rough. But every morning, dedicated to his mission, out and watered his seeds. Now, beautiful fruit trees, but they have not bared yet. One day, another neighbor driving by stops and says, hey, I see you out here every day. You lost a lot of weight. Is everything okay? Is there anything that I can help you with? Why don't you and the family come over for dinner tonight? I'm making soup. There'll be more than enough for everyone. He knew that he had lost weight, and absolutely his body itself was taking a toll on him, aches, pains, and he was always hungry. But he forced a smile and said, no, thanks. We're good. But I do appreciate you stopping by. And yes, don't you worry. The food is coming. That night, he prays, as he always does. And he cried himself to sleep because he felt the burden on his family, and absolutely the burden that this was taking on his own body. But that night, he doesn't wake up. He passed away in his sleep. At heaven's gate, he pleads, Lord, I don't understand. I did exactly what you asked me to do. I planted the fruit seeds and I watered it faithfully every day. You promised me that you would provide. How did I starve? Why did you allow me to starve? And God looks at him with sorrow and says, son, I did provide. I gave you the reason, first, to get out of the house, to see people, to know that you weren't alone. I sent a man wanting to give you bread so that you wouldn't starve while you waited for your harvest. I sent a rabbit to distract Bessie. I thought if you knew that you had earned the $20 that you would accept it, and that would give you money to provide more provisions for the family. I sent you a neighbor who invited your entire family to dinner. This way, you did not feel that you were being selfish for eating food that they couldn't have. And that same neighbor owns 3 grocery stores in town. He was going to hear your story last night and not only offer you food to carry home, but a job for you and your oldest daughter. Your faith was strong, and I commend you for that, but your eyes were closed. I sent blessings after blessings, and you missed them all. Wow, right? Okay, so we are going to dissect this Helpers High, fam. Sometimes we're so caught up thinking that things need to look a certain way that we lose sight of what we actually have. Sometimes the most courageous things that we can do or say is yes when help is offered. So let's be real. We've all had moments, I'm sure, where we've blocked our own blessings. We call it kindness. Like a friend offers to babysit, and you're like, no, that's okay. I don't want to burden you. Sometimes she doesn't sleep, or sometimes she gets fussy, or sometimes he stays up all night or makes noises, whatever you come up with, right? You don't want to burden them. Someone compliments you. That's a fun one. And instead of accepting the compliment by saying, thank you so much, I'm grateful, you say, oh, thank you. But this whole thing, oh, my hair, I didn't even wash it today. Or, oh, I've had this in my closet so long. I don't think anyone asked you that. They just said, your hair looks nice. Your lip gloss is a nice glitter today. You smell good. You don't have to give the explanation to them on this old thing or you didn't do much. But we do. And in doing so, we just rejected a gift. So provisions was never the problem. Sometimes we expect it to be followed by some type of fireworks when good deeds are happening, when miracles are happening. We expect it to be so obvious. But sometimes resources, supplies, help, it looks like bread. It looks like 20 bucks. It looks like a conversation from your neighbor offering you something that he has that you don't. How many of us have, for example, turned down career growth because the job that we're offered doesn't have a fancy title or it's a entry level project, not realizing that that project would have put you in the room with all the right people? How about praying for a soulmate, but then you dismiss the ones who are kind and consistent because they don't look like your type? Meanwhile, your type has done nothing more than drain the life out of you. Some of you want to start a new career or write a book, become an entrepreneur, start your own business. Why not? Everybody else is doing it. Seems easy enough. You've said it a couple of times, but then your efforts die out. Why? Because you got an old laptop. Your free trial software isn't the latest and coolest. A borrowed camera was offered to you, and you're just waiting for better equipment before you even get started. Pride can dress itself up like faith. It sounds noble to say, I'm fine, I got this. But let's be real. Sometimes that's not just pride, that is our inability to receive gifts. So we learn that seeds take time before they bear fruit. But there's always an in the meantime moment. In the meantime, while we are aspiring to, what do we do in the interim? We need to make sure that we're filling in those gaps with purpose. The fruit trees were the long term answer, right? And the neighbors were the short term answers, right? Both of them matter. But how often do we actually reject, in the meanwhile, provisions? because we're waiting for the big harvest. Sometimes we've been the helpers so long that we don't know how to receive. But hear me out. Helping is a blessing on both sides, giving or receiving. And when we refuse help that is being offered to us, we are blocking someone else's blessing. We are robbing them from their joy as well. So you have to be careful. I'm not saying to go out there and blindly accept random strangers' gifts, but sometimes you have to know that there is the purpose that this gift is meant for you and it should be gracefully accepted. All right, Helpers High family, it's that time. It's pulse check time. Let's ask some questions and see where we are so that we could know how much work we have to do. Nothing's wrong with either answer. It's just a good place for us to check in. Could you have rejected the very help that you actually asked for because it didn't come in the package that you expected it to? Could you have ignored help or downplayed it, thinking that that is not the kind of help that you were expecting or the kind of help that you asked for specifically? Have you ever mistaken pride for faith? Could you have blocked a blessing or two because you wanted to be in control of the situation? All right. If you've had more yeses than nos, then it's time to take ownership of the past. We acknowledge it and then we move forward with new wisdom. Here's what I need you to remember. Sometimes the breakthrough doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't always come with fireworks, and it never comes by saying, "Hey, I'm the gift that you need." Sometimes provisions look ordinary until it becomes extraordinary. And the truth is, because you haven't put your hands on your gift yet, it doesn't look extraordinary yet. So we're going to start by saying yes, by gracefully and gratefully, appreciatively accepting rewards that are meant for us, regardless of the packaging it comes in, regardless of the person who delivers it. So you're going to say yes to the bread. You're going to say yes to the pocket cash. 20 bucks is 20 bucks, people. You're going to say yes to the job that you're overqualified for because it's the right thing to do. If you feel it in your heart and you know, then you have to move in faith. Say yes to the compliment. Say thank you to the compliment. It's really that simple. You do not have to follow it with a fast forward of how much you paid for it, where you got it from, how long you've had it. None of that needs to follow. Again, accept the help. We are not here alone, and we do nothing by ourselves. Anything that is successful in our lives required a ton of people, at least more than one. So, yes, two could be a ton. The next time that help knocks on your door, open it. It may very well be all of the answers that you've been asking for, waiting for, and praying for. See you next time on Helpers High. Together, we make magic.